With the NCAA March Madness tournament underway, the college basketball hype right now is pretty real. Everyone's been making their brackets, including myself, and it broke on the first day. God damn it, Louisville, you fucked me up. The one team that everyone has their eyes on, obviously, is Duke, and it's mainly because of this guy.
Okay. Are you serious? Slam jam bam. Get him ready for the NBA dunking contest.
To say that Zion Williamson has been taking the NCAA by storm would be an understatement. It seems like every time Duke's on, my Twitter and Instagram start blowing up with videos and highlights of some crazy dunk or some crazy stat line. He's gotten high praise from other NBA players and analysts as well.
My God. These boys, I mean, Duke, whoa! Let me tell you something right now. Zion Williamson is special.
There's no doubt that Zion is a generational talent, and that's why this NBA season, there's been a full-out tank race for who will land the #1 pick in this year's draft. And the main assumption right now is that Zion Williamson is very likely to go #1, although right now, Ja Morant is making a solid case right now. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the 5 teams that I believe have the best chances to land Zion Williamson in the draft. Most of these are pretty obvious, but I'm also going to give my own speculation and input of how Zion would fit with each team, and do I see, Zion fitting well with the teams, and do I see anything working out with them. What's going on, guys? It's Maz here, and thank you for tuning into the video. So without further ado, let's not waste any more time and get started. As of right now, the Atlanta Hawks are 25-58. They're 12 in the East, and they have around a 14% chance at landing the #1 pick. In terms of how Zion would fit with the team, I think he'd fit in pretty well. Him and John Collins would be a young front court that could really develop into something solid in the future. And that's not even to mention the talented Trae Young. People weren't really sure if Trae Young would really flourish in the NBA level, because we saw all the hype in college, and people really didn't know if that would translate into the NBA. But this season, he has shown glimpses of the potential of being a superstar. He's had some crazy games, he's had some good stat lines, and he's made a pretty good case for being the runner-up at the least for Rookie of the Year. His jump shot is automatic, and he's starting to become one of the top ball handlers in the league. So that trio of Trae Young, John Collins, and Zion Williamson, with time to develop, could really be a team of the future, and they could potentially become a dark horse in the East. That's also not to mention that the trio could also potentially attract free agents in the future. Given that Atlanta's not really a big market, and it's going to take some time for the Hawks to be taken seriously, even with Zion, they could still attract additional pieces that could help the team grow and become a team of the future. Now, do I think Kyrie or Kevin Durant will go to Atlanta? Hell no. But they can attract another solid player that has all-star potential and grow with the young trio, and the future would be looking bright in Atlanta. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 19-53, 14th in the East, and they have around a 13% chance at the #1 pick. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Out of the 5 teams that I have in this video, I really hope that Zion doesn't end up in Cleveland. If Zion ends up with the Cavs, it would be a straight up disappointment. He would end up being the main guy, and they would have to work around to build around this guy, but that would just be years of wasted talent. Zion would be playing in a small market, and no matter how great he plays, he wouldn't be able to attract enough players to get them to be a team that could be taken seriously. Just adding Zion to what they have right now would not be enough. They would not even make the playoffs, honestly. And with that, I could see him potentially being in an Anthony Davis type situation where he develops for a couple of years, becomes an all-star, puts up ridiculous stat lines night in and night out, and in a few years, even becomes a name in the MVP discussion. But because of the lack of pieces around him, he wouldn't be able to get a taste of the playoffs, and he would just be stuck in this constant cycle of putting up great numbers and having great seasons with nothing left. The difference between Cleveland and Atlanta is that in Atlanta, they already have a rebuild going on, and they already have a few young players who have potential to grow, and they would be adding Zion to the mix. Instead of just adding Zion and having to build around him, it would be harder to attract players to a team that just has one guy, as opposed to a team that has a young core along with Zion. I just don't see Cleveland working out for him, and it would just be years of talent that would be going to waste. The Phoenix Suns are 17-56, last in the West, and they have the 2nd worst record in the league. Now, to me, there's a pretty good chance that Zion ends up in Phoenix. I honestly see this being the most likely choice, and honestly, it would be a pretty good move. This is just another example similar to Atlanta, where they have an already established young core. Devin Booker is one of the most underrated players in the league, and he doesn't get all the appreciation because of the team he plays for. It seems like people really forgot that 2 years ago, he dropped 70 points. You have him, and then you also have DeAndre Ayton, who was the number 1 pick last year. Everyone's really talking about Luka Doncic, and they're really obsessed with him, and even Trae Young, to be honest, for Rookie of the Year candidates. But people have really forgot that DeAndre Ayton was the number 1 pick, and he still puts up solid numbers. And he's honestly kind of slept on. So far this season, he's averaged 16 points and 10 rebounds a game, and that's pretty solid for a rookie who's in a team that has, young potential. If he continues to develop at the level that he is right now, and then if he's putting up these numbers right now as a rookie, and he continues to develop, imagine the numbers he could put up in a few years. He could easily become a top player in the league, a top big man in the league, and an all-star for sure. So you take Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, and then you add Zion Williamson, and you have a young team with a promising future. Now, it will take some time for this team to be taken seriously, especially because they're in the super competitive West. I mean, if LeBron and the Lakers can't make the playoffs, there's no way in the hell two 20-somethings and a 19-year-old could do it. But hey, give them some time, and Phoenix could potentially develop, and Zion, along with the core of Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, would be a fun team to watch, to be honest. And Zion going to the Phoenix Suns would be a good move, and I wouldn't mind it at all. The New York Knicks are 14-59, last in the East, and they have the worst record in the league. Now, if Zion ended up in New York, it would be pretty exciting, and honestly, it'd be good for the NBA in general. I mean, think about it. New York is the biggest market in the NBA, and even just in sports in general. And when was the last time the Knicks were relevant? I mean, the last time the Knicks were a championship team, I wasn't even born at that time. Like, even the time with Carmelo Anthony or Kristaps Porzingis or even Amari Stoudemire, it was a good team, but were you really thinking about them as potential championship contenders? No. And Zion even said himself that he wouldn't mind being in New York. Him being in New York would be good for the team because you already have Dennis Smith Jr., who's becoming one of the top young guns in the league. And since he's been traded, he's been putting up solid numbers and he's been playing well. Given that you're not going to be able to do much with just Zion and Dennis Smith Jr., that leads us to the offseason. Now, a lot of people, mostly Knicks fans, are hoping that Kyrie and KD join New York together and then they draft Zion, and then they'll be back to relevance again. And I'm not gonna lie, if that happens, then Zion would be set for some years. Now, he wouldn't be putting up the numbers that he could put up if he was in Cleveland, for example, but he would be playing with two of the best players in the league, both with championship experience, and he could learn so much playing with them, and he could develop with them, and imagine what the New York Knicks could become. He'd be competing for a title in just his first few years in the league. Now, will this happen? Who knows? But Zion ending up in New York, regardless if Kyrie or KD join, it would be exciting for the league and New York. The Chicago Bulls are 21-52, they're third worst in the East, and they have around a 12% chance of landing the number 1 spot. Now look, I'm a Bulls fan. I'm a diehard Bulls fan. And I really hope that Zion Williamson comes to Chicago. I mean, think about it. Chicago is also a big market. It's one of the biggest markets in sports. The city's great. And honestly, we need him. If you look at the young core on each of the other teams that I've mentioned, the Bulls already have an established core that's a lot better than the ones that I've mentioned before. We already have Zach LaVine, who's playing consistently well every game. He's going to develop and he will become an all-star one day. I guarantee it. Larry Markkinen, also going to be an all-star one day. He's just a solid big man. He's going to be a Dirk 2.0 or whatever you want to call it. And then you have Wendell Carter Jr., who is a defensive beast. And when healthy, he will play well and with the right development. And then you have Zion Williamson added with them. Imagine how good this team could become. I guarantee you, if Zion Williamson goes to the Bulls will make the 7th or 8th seed at the least. I guarantee it. I'll put all my money on it because it will happen. There's so much potential for these young guys. I mean, you already have these great guys, and then you add Zion to the mix. Imagine the potential. And that's not to mention the free agents you could attract, because Chicago's a big city. People who wouldn't want to play in Chicago. I get it. Garpax is shit, and I get it. I get the management is awful. They fuck over everybody, no matter how loyal you are. I mean, look what they did to Derrick Rose. But that doesn't take away the fact that Chicago is still a big market. There is a young core there, and Zion Williamson being a part of that would attract free agents. and they could develop into a championship contender. All we just need is to get rid of Chris Dunn, because honestly, Chris Dunn is not the point guard of our future. I've already mentioned this in my other video about the Bulls. The Bulls' point guards are shit. We need someone new. Maybe we bring Derrick Rose back next year. Who knows? You know? Maybe we bring back Derrick Rose next year. I'm not opposed to it. So you add Zion Williamson to the mix, you get a free agent, and get some other pieces here and there, and you have a great team for the future. And the possibilities for this team are endless. So yeah, I pray to God that we end up with the number 1 pick, because the potential of adding Zion Williamson would be super exciting, and I would be so excited to be a Bulls fan again. Because honestly, I don't remember the last time I've been up in arms about being a Bulls fan. The last time I was feeling that way, I was 12 years old and Derrick Rose was on the team. And it was before all the injuries, and it was before he was a meme. So I really want a star player for the Bulls. I really want someone who can be a franchise player on top of having LaVine, Markkanen, Wendell Carter. I forgot about Otto Porter. He's been playing well since the trade. And I'm glad we got rid of Jabari Parker because he ain't doing shit for the team. So having Otto Porter, he's been playing well for the team too. So imagine adding all these guys with Zion. Oh my God, we'd be so good. Although John Morant and RJ Barrett would be pretty nice too. So that's going to wrap up the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like and put down in the comments where you think Zion Williamson will go, or where do you think he should go. I also want to quickly thank you guys for the recent support. The video that I did about my Eastern Conference predictions is doing pretty well, and I'm really happy about that. So thank you guys so much for the support on that. But yeah, please continue to subscribe and support the channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.